So this is a video I've actually been requested to make from a few different people, so I decided I'd finally make it because I made a video very similar to it a while ago, basically bitching and complaining about another Mustang, so I figured, why stop there, obviously. If you thought in the first video, man, this guy has horrible luck with mechanics, it's about to get a whole lot worse because this is my 1992 Fox body Mustang, and much like the 68 Coupe, it has been through a string of poor luck and bad mechanics. It's incredible how fucked I can get with a Mustang. It's kind of brilliant. So let's start with some details about this car in its, well, let's start with its first form. So it's a 1992 Fox body Mustang. I'm pretty sure it's emerald green. I think that's just like, I forget what it's called, something gray. It's got a color code for the gray, but I forget the name of it. It's got a 5.0 engine in it. It was originally naturally aspirated, stock, everything. T5 manual, 5-speed transmission, and about 60,000 original miles. But I have no real proof of that, but when we bought it, it seemed legit, and I've been told by a lot of people it probably has a lot more mileage, but let me get to the things this car's done, and let me say why I think it is 60,000 original miles. It's just 60,000 miles of hell. So my dad bought this car not for me, but for himself, because this was his dream car. Now, he never had one of these growing up. He did have a cool car. He had I think it was a Thunderbird. So he had no Thunderbird. It was a V6 model, but he loved it. But this car was always his dream car. So I don't remember exactly I was about 8 years old, so the memories of this are kind of fuzzy. I'd have to really go over it with Dad, but we had a 90 or maybe even 80 something red Jeep Wrangler. Dad had been looking at these Fox bodies for a while now because he really wanted a Fox body, and eventually he decided to sell the Jeep to start looking for one of these cars. So he found one that was really cool, but it was like a cherry red Cobra, but it was a clone Cobra, and that really set him off. He didn't want a clone, so skipped it, and then eventually came to this one. So the story we've got of this car is that it was a drag racing project. So it had like the air ride suspension or whatever it's called to make the frame not twist, tied frame. It had a button that used to be on the console that we think was for some sort of racing thing, but what we got told is it never ran on the strip. It didn't have drag tires on it. It didn't have any twist to the frame, very straight frame, rust free. And what we were told is that he was building it and then ran out of money, realized how clean of a car it was, didn't want to molest it up too much, and decided to sell it off because, I mean, just lack of funds kind of kills drag racing. So we went and test drove the car, and funny story, my dad did the old trick of, oh, I only brought this much money, and I pitched in, I was like, wait, no, you brought the full amount. And my dad never gave me a more disappointing look. But I think we ended up paying full price for my little dumbass. But we took it on a test drive. It had tons of power. At least we thought then before we did a bunch of dumb shit. But it had tons of power. The car felt great. And we bought it. And we had the car for about, I don't know, years. So I'd say if I was 8, in 2 days, I'm gonna be turning 18 years old. So we've had the car for a very long time. So we had the car forever. We'd take it out and we'd do everything a Fox body Mustang's kind of meant to be. And it was a weekend car, you know, take it out every so often. We'd drive it down to Muscle on Main, which I don't know if you know what that is, but it used to be like a car show in my hometown, and there was a drag strip in front of the movie theater, which if you ever try to watch a movie while the fucking dragsters are out there, God bless your soul. We'd drive it down there. We never took it on the drag strip or nothing because it really wasn't that fast of a car. I mean, it was a quick car, but it wasn't like a drag car by any means. And it still isn't. It ended up sitting for a bunch of years right out here in this driveway. And it sat there for so long that like half the paint was faded, half the taillights were faded because half were in the sun, half were up against the house. The interior was getting baked, and it was getting rough. So he knew this friend, and this is where the story goes straight into the shitter. He knew this friend from high school that the whole thing he did these days was redid cars. Well, turns out all he does is scam fucking people, which we learned the very hard way. So he had the car, and we'll just call him Tim. I'm not gonna give out his name, but we'll call him Tim. Had the car for about 4 years, and it's good to note in this portion, you might be thinking, why was the car just sitting there for 4 years with no progress? Well, during this whole time, my parents were also going through a separation, so the car kind of got put on this infinite back burner of just, okay, leave it there, give him money when he wants it, just whatever, we'll get it done. And by this point, I was in about 8th grade. So it was kind of told to me at this point, my dad was like, okay, we're putting a lot of money in this car. Here's the deal. He knew I loved the car. And he was like, I'll either sell this car, and when you turn 16, I'll buy you some car. Or we can keep going with this, but when you turn 16, this is your car. Not buying another car, this is your Fox then. So I was like, of course, obviously I was like, hell yes, that's the best deal in my life. Of course I'll take the Fox body. He stole all my injectors and replaced them with mud cake injectors so the car wouldn't even run. So eventually we figure out what's going on, and we go down there and we're pissed off, and he wasn't there, he wouldn't show up. So we get a wrecker, we get the car. I've got pictures of it on the record. The car looked just fucking molested. I think I've got some pictures laying around somewhere. If I can find them, I'll be supplying them right now. We take it up to this shop with this dude that my friend vouched for. So nothing against the shop. They did the best they could. He's a diesel mechanic, but we really wanted him to do this. So it was out of his knowledge, and I completely understand why he couldn't really do much with it. But he did have a really good painter there named Duck, and Duck painted the entire car, and besides like one bubble in the front of the car and just like under the hood a little bit's a little wonky, but he did a really solid paint job on it, and I have no complaints with the paint job. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. But the mechanical side, he couldn't really do much with it. So we go get the car back. He's had it for about a year now at this point. So if we're tallying up, this is about 5 years where we didn't even see this car. It was just between different mechanics. He couldn't get the car in time worth shit. It ran, backfired, it wouldn't drive. It just pop, 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 and stopped. Turns out he had it 180 degrees at a time. So we get it back from that guy, and it's just fucking sputtering. And before we went to this one fella, I don't remember if I said his name or not, but we had this other guy look at it for a minute named Daniel Bradley, and I will say his name because I can't give this man bad publicity at all. I'm not gonna, you'll understand. So Dad works at a school now, and he went to the school. He was there talking to his principal about his Crown Vic or something, doing something with his Crown Vic, and that's a guy that we had been mentioned potentially going to. It was like, you know, hey, this guy's good, just take it here. But we talked to him, and at the time, he was full. Like, he had cars, everybody was wanting to work on something, so we couldn't get it in, so we took it to the other guys. But he worked on this car for about 5 minutes, and Dad said that the car just completely changed character. It was running so much better in the 5 minutes. It still wasn't running good. It wasn't putting out near the power it should, but it was drivable. And Dad basically begged him for a while. He was like, you've got to work on this car. You're the only thing that can really save it at this point. So I think he felt bad for us in a way, because he also knew the mechanic that screwed us, and apparently this wasn't his first time hearing of this, so he kind of took pity and decided to take the car into his shop. This man saved the car. No matter what you can say, this car would not be here if it was not for Daniel. He completely saved the vehicle. Things he ended up doing to it was a supercharger, because we just found a good deal on it. BBK headers into Flowmaster exhausts. Switched out the T5, because my T5, when you put it in first, it would go in reverse. When you put it in reverse, it would go in first. It was completely screwed. And something I should note, while it was at Trenton's, when they first got it running, a fuel line broke, tire left side of the car burned up. It burnt up the interior. We had to put new carpet, different panels. The car just bursted in fire. Luckily, the guy working on it was a volunteer fire department guy, so he actually managed to put the flaming car out, so the wires in this thing are melted. That's a big problem with it, and that's one of the big things Daniel had to face. So Daniel ended up putting a chip in it, putting a supercharger in it, and I'm skimming over some stuff. And the car started running like a fucking demon. It went from a powerful car to a car that could barely run, and then Daniel got it and it went to a demon. It was amazing. So he was finally done with it. We had faced an oil leak and PCV, and this car still got an oil leak. Like, it's not done. All right, I'm not done with this car, but he's like, okay, now we need to get this chip tuned. Well, I work part-time or something for this shop, and it was a guy named Frank Soldridge that's around here. And I'll put a video of him. He's a little well-known in the drag.
What point were you a little scared?
I wasn't scared.
No, you knew you could carry it out.
Going for a ride. Unfortunately, we've had that problem for a long time, just not that far up.
Put it on the dyno, let him do all that kind of stuff, and we ended up getting 296 to the wheel on this car. And from what I've been told by Daniel, the dyno is a pretty stingy one. So we're looking at, you know, it's like a 5'11" guy saying he's 6 foot, you know, 296, 300, all right? Especially on a stingy dyno, this car got 300 wheel horsepower, which for a 18-year-old just getting into cars is pretty damn nice. It's by no means the most powerful Fox. This isn't gonna win a drag racing competition, but for a street car, it's damn fast. So I wanna just show you around the car now that I've talked forever. I'll talk about a few mods that it has, and I hope I went into the history of this car good enough, and I'm sure I'm leaving out things. I went off script on this, but the car has been through absolute hell in about 4 mechanics. So let's, emerald green, as you can see, still's got the pony wheels on it. We had, oh yeah, this is something that took months, but I forgot about it. We sent the windows off to Team Vision Racing, which now gets a bunch of shit. It did take about 6 months or so, but it is beautiful job. But apparently he's in some hot water now. Peel and tint, so I've still got a bunch of residue on it. It's got the wings, trying not to show my license plate, but it's got the LX lights on it because I just think the GTs are a little ugly, and that's how we bought the car. Plastics, it's got baloney cuts for the exhaust. I don't know who did that, but it was before we got it, and yes, I'm aware baloney cut exhausts are ugly. So let's just go around the outside of the car. It's really pretty stock. It's really a clean car. I've got a really good body to start working with, you know, if I want to put heads on it or something, but I'm not going to do that yet, at least, because let me just mention, this is my daily driver. Like, when I go to make pizzas today, I'm going to be doing it in this thing. So just a note of, I don't want to make it so stupid that I can't drive it under bad conditions. Let's go into the interior. And got some floor mats in it, got some mud on that one, so I'll show you this one, because again, this is a daily driving car. So you can set in it. Obviously you can set in it, but still working on some stuff like getting different switches and stuff. The doors don't lock right now, and I'm trying to diagnose that. Signal lights don't work, all that. It's just a mess. So original glove box. This is not the dash cluster. We've had a bunch of problems with dash clusters. This one has 500,000 miles on it. Speedometer still don't work. So I think it's that gear in the transmission eating up. So as you can see, 5-speed stick shift. I've put a different Kenwood Bluetooth radio in it just to give it some modern features. And I even ran up a microphone into the car, and I'm missing that trim piece, but when I put a trim piece there, a wire will be hidden into the dash. So it's got some speaker wires ran from the radio to the back from the previous owner, so I'll probably put a kicker in this car at some point, just because, I mean, you're only young and dumb once, right? So just might as well put a kicker in it. You know, the wire's already there, so I ain't even got to run shit. I just got to plug it into the back of the radio and run something into the hatch. So you can see back seats in decent condition. It's got them pony floor mats. I got some oil in here because I'm always leaking oil, so I got to keep it on me. But yeah, pretty clean car. The belt's squeaking all to hell right now, but. And here is the engine. So Edelbrock upper and lower, Ford Racing valve covers. That's my squeaky belt. I'm about to replace those battery terminals and battery leads. I need to grab some from Harbor Freight. I've already got the battery leads, but I gotta get a different connector for it. Here's the big supercharger. It goes the cold air intake, goes straight into the inlet of the supercharger, which comes out to, I think this is, yeah, a 70 millimeter throttle body into the Edelbrock upper. Vented valve cover for the boost, because we're still having PCV problems. Some different stuff in there. Distributors a little different. Fuel lines are a little fancier. There's the BBK headers. And this thing, from my understanding, basically was used in the 90s when a car had boost. And all it does is it shoots a bunch of gas to it when you give it, when you get on the gas hard, to compensate for the boost. So we have that deleted because the car now has an electronic tune on it, so it's not necessary. Where's that belt dressing? Jesus Christ. Okay guys, well that's really it for the car. Maybe missing something, but I think this covers most of the basis. If you enjoyed the video, give it a big thumbs up and share it with a Fox Body loving friend. See you in the next one.